Excuse me. Sir? Sir, your music is a little loud. I'm trying to play my own, and if you could just... Oh, no. Oh my God!
Thumper is the abstract aggressive rhythm game that I never knew that I wanted. It's psychedelic and fractally and covered in neon and chrome, and it wants to kill me. But let's back up. Developed and published by Whooole in 2016. Whooole is made up of two mere mortals separated by thousands of miles, and they worked on this thing for 7 years. I mean, A, commitment. Woof. Ugh. And B, the classic tale of the determined indie devs enduring the cruel tides of time to realize their vision. The drama, the romance, it warms my fingers. Because games, get it? Now this is not your daddy's rhythm game. I can basically guarantee that. It doesn't have your standard song types or lengths. They aren't even really songs so much as musical accompaniment to the gameplay. The soundtrack is just hard-hitting, original electronic music designed to be loop-friendly, iterative, and work with the sound effects of the gameplay to give the player a chance to contribute. Contributing feels great. I really like how that feels, as opposed to success simply meaning that the music plays correctly. Success here is you spicing up the song. And all it takes is the A button and the thumbstick. Or space and WASD. But on that note, do yourself a favor and go controller if you can. The rumble feedback is very, very nice. The levels can be very long, about 15 to 30 minute sessions. Guitar Hero players, you know how terrible that can be. Of course, we don't have a weird guitar peripheral that's gonna exhaust your fingers here, so that's, kind of a different situation. Thankfully, Thumper's levels are broken up into sprints of intensity, which are broken up with checkpoints. You'll get a micro break at the end of each checkpoint to see the score and scratch the itch on your nose that you will inevitably have, and that cycle is further broken down with some meditative stretches of track. It's just textbook interest curve no matter how far you zoom out. From the fractions of seconds between individual obstacles to the general difficulty of the moment-to-moment gameplay, the game follows the tried-and-true roller coaster pacing to a T. Each level also features what I'm going to refer to as a chorus section, a recurring sequence of inputs unique to that level that appears frequently throughout it. They tend to spawn at what appear to be milestones of each sub-level, most commonly towards the end, right before a checkpoint. These are a good example of a lull in the interest curve, as the player quickly gets used to this recurring sequence. When it appears, because it has been learned, gameplay difficulty decreases and interest, in this case the intensity of the Thumper experience, goes down. It doesn't get to the point of being boring though, as repetitive tasks would when failing again and again in Dark Souls or Mario Sunshine. Do you remember that level with the Yoshi and the mushrooms? The pace of the game is so naturally intense, and it punishes you so frequently that the repeated input is almost purely a confidence booster. A vital break in the constant challenge of keeping your space beetle unexploded. Every time I finished the level with a perfect chorus, I was rejuvenated and ready to head back up the curve, which is always, always scary. No matter how intense the gestalt of Thumper gets, everything dies for a brief moment at the end of a sub-level. For but a single slippery instant, there is no fear, no oral assault. And then, without fail, the drums come crashing back in. The pursuit is back on, and the game jolts up to an intensity level just high enough to fully grab your attention, while still having room to grow until the next checkpoint drop-off. This ensures a feeling of consistently increasing intensity throughout the whole level, while not having to raise the actual difficulty to a harmful extent. Thumper looks like a beetle on a track, but it feels like fighting. Just barely sliding by these vicious strikes. Crashing through blockade after blockade in a desperate race to confront the gods of this endless, angry, musical hellscape. The whole experience is so downright pugnacious that the developers have seen fit to tag it as a rhythm violence game. And that fits! In Thumper, a turn taken is a blow deflected. A note hit is a concussive blast. You mess up once and you get a big ol' blast of audio-visual distortion, along with the armor of your beetle being stripped off. Mess up twice? I love this choice, as it suits the idea of violence so well. Get decked in the face once, you're spinning. You're gonna need to reground yourself, and if you get decked a second time before you can recover, you're done. You're just done. The game doesn't really rely on you being able to predict what's coming down the track based on the music, as the player pilots their beetle polyrhythmically. As the game ramps up in difficulty, timings become irregular. One sub-level focuses on teaching a certain sequence, and the next will throw in an intersecting one. Eventually, the player is being thrashed about to a complex percussive beat and filling the gaps by button mashing to differently metered command prompts. More than once, I completely lost my place in the beat. Just suddenly my bobbing head and tapping foot were doing it wrong. Even if I was correct in most of my inputs, it could get difficult to mentally extract the rhythm I was playing in the current stretch. Sometimes I hadn't even realized that my actions had created anything one would consider satisfyingly musical until after I'd completed them and my brain finally managed to catch up to the last few seconds. You were also trained to keep an eye and ear out for signals as to what's coming. Notes are preceded with a light tweeting sound and a crisp particle effect to get your peripheral attention upon spawning. The little spike barrier guys fly in from the sides, and even if you can't really see them due to the tight quarters of a tunnel, announce their arrival with a ting 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 kind of thing. I never thought I'd write or say that. Hear two claps? You're about to hit two curves in the same timing, and with the speed at which this beetle ends up going, there's barely any time to really register what you're seeing and hearing. Taking the time to parse it out is suicide. I found personally that only by zoning out completely and tapping into my raw call and receive reaction abilities could victory be had. Only through the combination of telegraphing visuals and tiny audio warnings was Thumper even really possible to play. Being able to just keep a beat did not cut it. Even being comfortable with polyrhythms and reacting quickly isn't quite all the armor one needs to go in. The secret sauce is actually endurance. Thumper never really tells you that you lose, and it doesn't really give you a break between the sub-levels either, so you are playing for really long stretches of time. If your beetle explodes, it just reappears. You try again. Game over is when you yourself walk away, and that's almost certainly due to exhaustion. The constant barrage of stimuli almost ensures that you're going to get to that point before the game does. This boss, Crackhead, is horrifying, by the way. All of the bosses are. They've got shades of horror, but mostly intimidate through their sheer size or strange movement. But this Crackhead guy sucks. Drool, if you're watching this, you legit scared me. I just wasn't expecting after the triangle tentacle guy. He's just so unpleasant to look at. I hate so much when he is on the same screen that I'm looking at. Assuming you can deal with looking at this thing 9 times, and you think that you're ready to enter a game of sensory fisticuffs with an angry orchestra at your local fractal nightmare, check out Thumper. Thumper is one of those games I suggest picking up regardless of whether or not the audiovisual aesthetic appeals to you at all. It's taken a neat stride in a neat direction. It's approached the rhythm genre in a way not quite taken before, and I think not quite expected by the games community as a whole. It also just happens to be cool as hell, fun as hell, and potentially in VR, a realm I refuse to enter because I'm confident that this fragile carbon body that I inhabit would just melt. And then we wouldn't have any show anymore. Anyway, my dog is bothering me to go out, and so I'm gonna do that. It has been a pleasure serving you guys with the first episode of 2017, yay! Even though it was supposed to be the second episode of 2017, yay! And I will see you soon. Bye.